This is video 13 and we'll be looking at setting up motors. So what I've done is put a motor control center board in as a main DB, giving it the MCC description. So we can place a motor, place it just above our motor control center, and as part of the motor command, which is unique for this particular one, it's asking you to add a cable at the same time. So you don't have to go to insert cables separately. So all I do is select my cable, the length of my cable in, the motor reference, any other constraints on the cable. What we can then do, we can either do a search on manufacturer or we can do a generic. So first of all, we'll do a generic motor to start with. So if we're doing a generic motor, what it does, it goes off and looks at a database of generic types of motor, less than a kilowatt, around 10 kilowatts, greater than 100 kilowatts, and for single phase as well, with all the various power factors, UL duration, etc. on here. So that drives the calculation. So for example, if I went in and put a 3-phase motor on there, and I decided I wanted a 10 horsepower motor, that then relates to 20 amps, and that works out at 7.46 kilowatts, 746 watts for 1 horsepower. And also you have the motor efficiencies and the power factors. Now what you can actually do, this will give you a starting current of 141 amps, but what you can actually do is apply a star delta or a soft assisted start, and that then allows you to look at the starting characteristics and the running characteristics of the motor. So that's a generic motor, and also it's telling us that the specified motor doesn't comply with the energy requirements of Appendix 7.2, where you need an energy efficiency ratio of at least 4. We can go with that. Now if we're going to put a manufacturer, we can go into a lot more detail than this, so I'll put the cable in for the manufacturer. M2 for motor 2. Okay, that. Now this time what we can do is go and run a search on various search criteria. So I might want to look at a full kilowatt rating of, say, less than, let's say, on the list, 25 kilowatts. We could run a search on that. I might want to only use energy efficiency class 4 motors. I can do a search on that. So we can start searching by applying different criteria. I might want to look at an efficiency of greater than a certain value. So I might want to look at a value of greater than 91.3, do a search. So you can see that starts whittling down our motor selection. Then we can search on synchronous speed, power factors, kilowatt ratings, etc. So if I decide on the motor I want to select, so I'll select that motor there. We then select it. That then gives us all the parameters on here. So we've got a starting current of 306 amps. What I could also do is put a star delta start in there if I wanted to. And also, by applying the starter at the motor end of the cable, so if it's piggybacked on the motor and not in the MCT, this will give us different results. So when I run the calculation, you can see here, on this particular motor here, because we've gone in to the motor details and we've put in the starter at the motor basically in the box in the MCC, you're running those cables into the motor and out and back. So you've got 1.5 mil times 2. But on this one, we have the starter at the motor end of the cable. So we're just running our 4-core cable out to that motor. Now this one is giving us a bit of a warning here because the cable is bright red. So what we can do on the results, we can go and look at the warning there, and that tells us that we need to apply additional protection measures. So there was a regulation came in 2008 in the 18th edition where it was advocating you need protection at the beginning and the end of the cable, or putting a circuit transformer in to monitor any overcurrent in any of the phases. So what we can do is go into the cable itself, and we can just tick a little box to tell to mention that we are applying additional protection measures. That can then go in. So then when we run the calculation again, so if we were running that calculation, submitting it to a consultant and the cable was bright red, they probably want to know why. So you can just point out to them that you're taking additional protection measures in line with regulation 434 suffix 4(1) parts 1 to 3 on that basis. So motors can be entered either as a generic motor, or they can be entered from a database of motor manufacturers. And that database can be edited in the MotorDB section.